What's up, everybody? I am Bradley Schneller, owner, CEO of Stack Coaching, and I have with us Laura Fuentes, CEO, owner of MOMables.
Yep.
And avid runner.
Yes. Only in the last 3.5 years. But
and
yes.
mom of three.
Mom of three. I work full time.
Yeah.
Juggle a pretty busy schedule, like everybody here listening.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to have you on, Laura, I've actually wanted to do this for a long time because I wouldn't even say more than dabble in the realm of food.
Yes.
And healthy living for families.
Yep.
Yeah.
Families arena.
And you are super into fitness, specifically running.
Now, mostly, yes, running. I found my niche.
Yeah.
But I'm super into keeping myself active.
That's important.
So, like I would say the last decade, I progressed from prioritizing being active to honing into different, from cycling to running now.
All right. Tell everybody here, because the majority of the people listening are parents. Yeah. Tell them, what is MOMables?
Yeah. So MOMables is one of my portfolio of companies. But specifically, for the last decade, I've been helping families eat healthier meals together at home. MOMables is kind of like Lunchables, but mom made. And I launched that in 2011 as a way to help other parents with their what do I make for lunch situation. From there, I expanded into, I have 5 cookbooks. I have other websites.
5? I thought it was 3. Damn.
Now we're
written
up to 5.
2 more.
2 more. Yeah. So they've all been very family centric into the what I make for dinner, from food allergies. And this is why we go way back in the realm of food and what one should eat. And, but ultimately I've learned even in this journey that every family is it's almost like a case specific, right? Because we all have different schedules, different nutritional needs, different likes and dislikes. And in addition to that, there's a figuring out what to eat and the how do I execute. So I've gotten really good at helping families execute what is it ultimately that they want, not perfection in their meals, but, doing their best and, sliding fitness in there as well.
Yeah, and moving in a healthier direction constantly.
Yeah, it's not about like a perfect meal. It's always like the direction of where you're going and your week as a whole, right?
Yeah, I always tell people the best diet is the one you can keep.
Yep.
But it's also one that works for you, right?
For sure.
There's a ton of different ways to eat out there to either lose weight, become healthier, gain weight, gain muscle, all those things, right? And one that works for you is one that you like.
And that's really how change happens in the one that you can keep, right? Yeah. So whether it's in the right direction of change or in the wrong direction, but ultimately is those habits that we form for ourselves and within our family structure that support whether or not we are moving in the direction that we want to achieve our goals.
Yeah. So you do fly around the country.
Yep.
And you give seminars?
I have done just everything under the sun, from television shows.
Yeah, been on Good Morning America, right?
Yes.
Good Morning Today
cooking shows, competed on Food Network. So I have that realm of, food competition as well. And then, my 11-year-old will tell you that I'm a YouTuber just because I have a YouTube channel and a plaque. But
my son is always asking me about how many subs I have. And then he wants to know how many subs you have. And I'm like, leave it alone, dude. Laura's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, it's just really, I started doing video to visually show how achievable a meal can be, right? Because there's a disconnect between what we see or feel that a recipe can be, especially as food photography has improved tremendously. Just search for anything on the internet and photography is amazing, to actually making it for our families on the table. So I started doing video just to show people how to do it, right? In shortcuts. And all my videos are under 3 minutes because I myself don't have more than 3 minutes to figure out how to make something at 6:00 at night. So that's sort of where I found my niche. None of those 30-minute videos or anything like that. So I have really just tried about everything there is to do with food, nutrition, of course, because it's taught me a lot about nutrition. So it's not just create recipes.
Yeah.
So I write about nutrition. I have a book on intermittent fasting as well. So that we really dabble in I would say dabble, but I really dabble, and then I dive deep into a specific topic, whether it's hormones. And I'm in my 40s, so a lot of my nutritional needs have changed as well. I have growing teens, so all of those things I write about, and then I share, whether it's online or in my emails.
I love it. In terms of, and I'm curious. All right, which, let's see, seminars, television shows, cooking competitions, which one made you the most nervous?
I would say it was actually, well, they've all made me nervous up to a certain point, but I'm like a good pressure cooker. I thrive under pressure. So I think when I filmed a pilot show for Discovery, and they came to our town and they came to our house, and like we filmed there, and that was in Spanish. I was born and raised in Spain, so I'm bilingual. But this one specifically was a show in Spanish, and I was kind of nervous because even if you're bilingual, it just takes a minute to like
flip it.
Yeah. And so that was most nervous. And I also don't live in New Orleans. I live a little bit out. So, but they kind of had to focus in the city as well. So we did a lot of B-roll and driving around. So that was like, for me, I was nervous because that decided whether or not I was going to do
probably the least familiar you were with something.
Exactly. Because I had to do a full season in Spanish, and not that it's fine.
I've never even seen the show. Is it out there?
Yeah, so that was the most nervous. Live television, even though you sort of like tune out that there's millions of people watching, like the Today Show, and I'm only 5 feet tall. So, I was next to Carson Daly, and he's like 6'3". So it's like looking up, but that's like my norm. And so I was a little nervous then, because that was my first live TV. So I think every first and anything new, we're all nervous. It's about just like honing in for a second and going, I deserve to be here. I'm here. They let me be here. Right. So that's sort of like the mentality I take about everything. I'm already here.
Right.
I got to go with it.
Yeah. I'm like, if anyone that knows me knows I'm not shy in front of a microphone. But like, even when I have to give a talk in front of a ton of people, I am nervous right up until it's boom, and then it's gone.
Right.
Like once
the
I
anticipation.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's very normal.
It's on. So the other thing that you are absolutely amazing at is running.
I'm good. I'm okay.
You're okay. I mean, look, you are a 40-year-old mom who just finished the Berlin Marathon.
Yep.
And there's a PR for you.
That was my first marathon ever.
Okay.
And I've had a good PR on my half.
Can we tell everyone your time?
Yeah, it was 4:32.
Which breaks down to
10:16 a mile.
10:16 a mile. Look, I think that's amazing because sometimes
for 26.2 miles.
Yeah, sometimes I run right up here for 2 to 3 miles, and it's a hot day, and I look at my watch, and I'm like going 12-minute miles, and I'm like, how could people go like on the reg 7 something, 6 something.
Yep.
And I mean normal people.
No. Like, yeah, everyday people.
Not the amazing athletes who are doing 4 something a mile for 26 miles.
Yeah, no, like really endurance. There's such a thing as they're gifted at, heavy, like short sprinting or endurance. And like, I know where I fall in like the shorter distances, like a 5K.
Yeah.
And with training, you get better. But like, I just went to this marathon thinking, first of all, it's like one of the majors. So it was by a lottery, and by chance I got in, and I was like, well, it's kind of it's like once in a lifetime. So I just went with it and trained. And here in New Orleans is super hot. So most of my long runs, meaning like 14, 16, 18, 20 milers, I did on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And that was terrible, but that was like mentally, like, so once I got to Berlin and I'm running outside, like I hit mile 20 and I'm still like so happy to be there and like full of energy.
And then it's adrenaline.
And there's an adrenaline, and there's also like, I don't even know what happens. There's a point where you're just, can I keep going? And I'm like, and I saw my husband, I think of mile 23 or something. And he said that I was still smiling, and I have some great photos. I would do it again.
Right.
Like I finished and I'm like, you know what? I would just do it all over again because the training was worth it. The discipline was worth it. There's so much that goes into working full time, juggling my family, having to feed them, and then having to feed myself. I mean, I know I texted you sometimes at 10 p.m. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't even eaten enough today,
right.
And so I'm like eating oats before bed.
I'm like, get those carbs in, girl.
Yeah, they're carbs. I'm fueled by oats. They're my friend.
So how long were you, because you've done a lot of races. A lot of halves, right?
Like 5.
Five
I've
halves?
I like literally, you guys, I started running like not even 4 years ago.
God, that blows my mind. I feel like you've been running forever. But
it seems, it's like Forrest Gump. It seems like keep going, but it's only been 4 years because I have severe scoliosis.
Yeah.
And
it's a pretty sick curve. I've seen the exercise.
Yeah, my whole life I was told like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And I'm like, well, how else am I going to be active? Yeah. Well, just walk. And I'm like, but that's very low intensive. And I feel like I already get enough steps
you daily. Need release.
I really do thrive in that, adrenaline junkie of like, an 8-mile run, 10-mile run. It's like super happy distance for me.
Right.
Like the equivalent for you, if you do like a real heavy, really hard workout and you just leave the gym and go, man, I did that.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I've learned that like an hour at a spin class, sweat my ass off. And then I'm like, so good. Same with like a 8-mile distance. And so, but yeah.
So how long was your training specific for the marathon?
Specifically, I had a 3-month plan because I already had a really good base.
Right.
So I ran the New York half marathon in end of February. So I had already a good base.
Geared up.
I was geared up. And then, so I just maintained where most of my quote long runs for the week was like 6 to 8 miles. So I was doing like 20 miles a week as maintenance.
Yeah.
Right. Three runs a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you were on the treadmill a lot. Like, what were you watching something until, like, what are you doing? What do you, because
I listened to
20 miles is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and even worse, it's not like you're doing 20 miles at your race pace. You're doing 20 miles at like, I'm doing 20 miles at 12 miles an hour. So like slow jogs.
Right.
And, so I listen to books. I watch shows. So I like to do nothing and listen to nothing for the first hour because that's really my mental endurance. And
I think that's hard to do and people should practice that.
Yes, it's very hard because even on a race, no music, nothing. Even during the marathon, my first hour, no music, nothing, so that I can absorb my surroundings and really hone in on focus.
When you're training like that though, how many ideas pop into your head for your business?
A lot. So that's, so because I'm focused on running or just one foot and step on the other, like you really kind of clear out the fog of your daily life, right? Because I start like problem solving. So for me, it's been a really great time to get ideas. And, I have a ton of like dictating like, hey, Siri, do this and take a note or tons of text messages to my right hand at work on, they're kind of jibbled because there's only so much like on the treadmill with the sound, but it's a very good time for yourself. So that's actually, I kind of miss that.
I actually lift weights in the gym because I oftentimes have to lift by myself because of my schedule and coaching and nutrition and all of the kind of things. And I will go no music and I'll just lift in silence.
Yeah. You and your thoughts. It's a really important thing for many of us because I feel like everyone, like I don't meditate. Right. And it was like, oh, meditate.
I don't either. I've tried a bunch of times.
Guided meditations. I've got all the apps. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me.
Right.
And I feel like, I think the end result is being very similar. And one should prioritize that experience or that time to yourself because we are so busy and so bombarded with information, other people's needs, what we have to do, what we should be doing, and our own thoughts.
Yeah.
So that for me was a really great part of training.
Yeah. So how did you, when you run, is it 20 miles or 24, 26, 26 miles of music, or do you listen to a book?
So,
like I'm talking about in the marathon.
In the marathon, I did the first hour in silence. And after that, I put on music because the tempo or the cadence of music is naturally faster. Then I did have like really good audiobooks in like my stash.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case things went south and it started going to be longer.
Yeah. Or, I downloaded music from Spotify. I've made so many mistakes in other races of like not having the music downloaded because there's
biggest mistake ever.
Yes, because there's
tell me what.
The biggest mistake, well, during a race is like, in this marathon, the biggest mistake is wearing tights as opposed to shorts. Because if you have to go to the bathroom to pee or whatever,
geez, you got to peel them off.
The tights they don't peel off well. So lesson learned, shorts next time.
Yeah.
But really, like it went really well. There is such a thing as practice, what you want to execute. So all the fueling, all of that went well. But I've seen people say I've run a race without music, and they only trained with music. So that's why for me, the first hour of silence is so important in my long runs, because should I not be able to depend on my music, I'm already trained to go in silence.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So that was really good. Other mistakes is like wearing too many clothes and layers, I think.
Tell everybody your trick. Like what did you do before the race?
Oh, so in like my robe?
Yeah.
So usually in races, it's kind of cold. So I add all the clothes that you wear that are called like discard clothing at the start line. And then the first, 100 yards, there's like jackets and sweaters everywhere. So a friend of mine, Allison, who's also my running coach, she said, hey, a great trick is to use a old robe or ask for it. So I asked my neighborhood and collected like 6 robes. So I have robes for different races. And is to have a robe because it tends to be really cold and you stand around for like an hour or more.
Right.
And so it's almost like you have a long coat.
Right.
And then it has robes have pockets, so I can put like my banana that I'm still going to eat before the race and stuff. And then at every race, people have looked at me wearing this like grandpa robe or grandma with like big flowers or whatever. And they're like, this is genius. So a robe is like the best discard clothing, and this one I didn't because I didn't want to fly to Europe. I flew with a carry-on for 2 weeks and the robe takes up a lot of room. So I just bought a sweatshirt.
You need a carry-on for 2 weeks in Europe?
Yeah.
My girlfriend's rolling over right
now. You can do it. It's super achievable. There's a lot of reuse and, hand washing, but it's all about being efficient because that's something else. Like the stuff that we have and our responsibilities are one of those things that can hold us back from doing a lot of things. Just to reel it back for you guys to making time and prioritizing whatever your goal might be. There's stuff in our life hold us back, right? So for me, like I didn't want to travel with a big suitcase because I knew that when I got to Berlin, I wanted to, after I landed, even then hauling our suit, a carry-on is a lot. So I wanted to be able to put the carry-on in like the train station locker and then go explore until I was able to check in. So these are the things kind of like, I think about the experience.
Pretty genius. Yeah.
Yeah. So Europe is pretty well set up that way. But otherwise, like I know that I could do a week in a backpack if I had to.
I love it.
So now,
Right.
Yep.
I've only ever carried on to Europe. I've never checked it back to Europe.
Yeah, that's great. That's all you need, okay. So guys, let's talk about so I did reach out to you before I started training because so I knew, which I didn't know, is that most women this is something I also experienced with the women in my community that, we have over 500,000 moms that kind of look at my stuff every month.
Humble brag.
Yeah. They honestly, so a big issue with women is that in our goal to lean out or be thinner or get rid of those, like the mom weight, like it's the biggest issue with my audience, for example, is like they don't eat enough. Yeah. Right. So under eating, under fueling for our life. And this is not about training.
Yeah.
So that is a major disruptor of why people don't lose weight because they're actually not eating enough. And that's something that you really, I didn't know.
It's really hard. People listen to that, what you just said, Laura, and it is correct, but also people listen to it and take it to an extreme. And here's what I mean by that. In order to lose weight, no matter if you have hormone issues or some type of, I'm not going to say believe that.
Like I have a sluggish thyroid. So I have thyroid issues as well.
So let's say you have a sluggish thyroid.
Yep,
okay. In order to lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit from whatever your maintenance level is. maintenance.
Correct. But most people don't even know what it is that their bodies need. So they're seriously under eating.
And I'm gonna break this out for people real quick, because it's actually something that I've researched a lot more, because there is thoughts out there that you can change your maintenance level.
Sure.
Right. All right. So, and the other thing is that women in particular, really, this comes down to women, is that there is a vast range on maintenance levels. Like, and I'm telling you, some women have I've seen maintenance levels on them that are like 1,200 calories a day, and other women 2,400 calories a day.
Yeah.
Which is gigantic range. Like, that is a gigantic range. And so the problem is for some women, okay, that like to work out. All right, let's say you work out 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
If you're that 1,200 calorie woman that likes to work out 4 or 5 times a week, and you're eating 1,000 calories, it's impossible to work out hard.
Right.
Right.
Correct. You're either not going to get what you want out of your workouts,
right. And so
or build muscle.
Something has to give. So earlier I was talking about like what changing your maintenance level. What makes up maintenance? Okay, or your metabolic set point, however you want to say that, is your BMR. Your basal metabolic rate, that is how many calories you burn basically at rest while you're sleeping, not moving. Okay. That is genetically predetermined.
Yep.
You cannot change that. Okay. And that's where a lot of the biggest differences come between maintenance levels on people.
Yeah. Like, we calculated mine. We can give them examples with numbers. It was like, when we met at first, it was like 1420.
Right.
Which I'm 5 feet tall. Not really.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Because then if you have like, 500 active calories a day, something, which is hard to measure. Okay. It's hard to measure, but let's say you do. And then so you have your BMR, which we just talked about. We have active thermo, I can't.
Like the calories you burn through activity.
Yeah. Burn through activity. Okay. And then you have your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? Which is your NEAT. Okay. That's how many calories you burn when you're sitting at a desk and tapping your foot, or walking to your car, or doing chores around the house. Okay. It's unintentional movement.
Yep.
Right. That's 2/3, right? So if you get your BMR, and then you have you cannot change that, but you can change your active exercise activity, and you can change your non-exercise activity. Okay. So when we talk about changing maintenance, those are the things we talk about, right? So if you chronically undereat, now here's where it gets sticky. Okay. If you chronically undereat, you will not have enough energy to alter 2/3 of that thing.
Sure.
You won't have enough energy to work out in any type of decent fashion, and you won't have enough energy to fidget or do chores around the house.
You're just tired.
Right.
It's like you wake up and you're like, man, I'm tired all the time.
Yeah. And I can tell you this.
You live tired.
I measure my steps, all right, almost daily. Okay. And I try to get 15,000 steps a day. I can tell you, and you can manipulate your steps by running, by walking, like
by waving,
all this stuff. You can manipulate your steps, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you unequivocally, like, if I am super tired and it's a weekend, and I just like lay around on the sofa and watch football, like, the difference between my steps is about 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
Like, I can easily lay on the sofa and hit 5,000 steps for the day, and as opposed to 15,000 on a normal day. So point is if you are chronically under eating, you will not have the energy to move.
Correct. Right. And so what happens with running is that, or anyone that exercises, is that they want to work out harder. They want to improve their times. So essentially you want better performance.
Yes.
Right. And so, better performance is not going to happen unless you fuel your body with the right breakdown of foods. Like, I learned that, like, that for me was like, I remember you saying, like, ease off the peanut butter.
Right.
I'm like, but I'm still making 1,400 calories. And you're like, yeah, but those peanut butter calories are not the same as your oat calories. Right. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like, it's interesting that Laura brings this up, because Laura is my cousin's wife. Okay. So Laura and I have known each other for a long time.
Yes, you were a freshman.
I was a freshman in high school.
College? Yeah.
High school, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway.
Total band geek over here.
Yeah, that's me. And so as like I got into fitness and nutrition, MOMables was starting, and like we've
And I was
kind
having
of
kids.
right, and we've kind of like followed
Similar
similar
trends.
trends in nutrition, right?
Yep.
That's what I was getting
We
to.
have both done paleo. We've tried
Keto,
keto,
all
low
those things,
carb,
right?
clean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all that stuff, right? And so what's
bulletproof.
interesting at Bulletproof, as the information has come out, and it's funny. I say as the information comes out and changes, but the reality is this information has been around for a
Right.
long time. It's just influenced in a different way over the
Sure.
years. Okay,
hmm
and we're constantly on a journey, so we're always looking for the next
hmm
best thing in order to help us get to the end result.
Right.
Right.
And we're always discussing it in from a very geeky point of view, but we're always talking about how do we actually make this happen
Right.
as I have 3 kids and I work. So if you guys are listening or watching, you're also working. So you're listening to Bradley most of the time or looking up things online, like my content or other people's, and going, that sounds great. But the trends seem to like give me better and quicker
Yeah.
results
It's
as
so
opposed to,
right.
the long, steady, life and nutrition is like a marathon, long and steady,
So here's the deal with
very
the trends.
calculated.
The trends work for a short period of time.
It's like a 5K,
Yeah,
real
it
quick.
will work, and then you will be right back to where you
hmm
were. And so
Yeah.
there, every like keto works, paleo works, primal works, clean eating works. All those things work if you have all of the information, right? And then what you're using it for. And I think when you were listening to influencers on the internet,
Mhm.
TikTok, Instagram, whatever it might be, sometimes they're not giving you the entire story, or you just don't, or they're giving you enough of the story to help you out, but you're not looking into the entire story, right?
Correct.
And so, like, I say this all the time, and I go back when I was paleo, initially it worked, and then and I talk about this all the time, your hunger levels start to catch up with your activity levels, which is
Mhm.
why you have to be in this constant balance
Yes.
of both.
Yep.
And what happened is all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, so eggs are paleo and bacon is paleo? I'm going to eat 4 eggs and 4 pieces of bacon. And next thing you know, you had a 600-calorie breakfast. Okay. And that's on top of the butter coffee I just ate. That's a 300-calorie coffee. Right.
Sure.
And so I had half my total calories for the day at breakfast. The other thing that does is, despite the fat bomb that it is, um, when you get an insulin spike from like eating,
Mhm.
right? And now you start to rev up that engine, and now you're hungry the rest of the day. So
Right. Plus, that's not to mention that there's very little carbohydrates to actually provide you with the energy to teach a class at 10:30 or
yes, yeah,
whatever it is.
right.
So,
And so when Laura got into running and we reached out, we kind of like reprogrammed her diet.
completely. I would say that unknowingly 55% of my daily calories came from
Peanut butter.
that too. Like, so 50, my breakdown on calories was like closer to like 55% fat and then 30% carbs and protein. Like, I wasn't getting enough protein, I wasn't getting enough carbs, and I was getting, because eggs or even turkey bacon or, peanut butter,
Right.
like a lot of those things have fat. So I even had to think, I'm like, okay, that's why I now understand why there's a choice between chicken thighs and chicken breast,
Yeah. And you
or
can have the chicken
for
thighs,
sure, for
but it
sure.
just depends what the rest of your day wants to look like.
Right. Because then I had to, as I think we listen to a lot of this influencer and information online and, that low carb this and low carb that. So I really, for a long time, I feared eating carbs, even the right type of carbs. So, and what I mean by the right type of carbs is like, or oats or, I feared eating like sourdough or bread,
Right.
and, but it turns out that carbs are my friends because they really can help you feel full along with the rest of your meal,
Yeah.
satiate you, provide a lot of nutrition, from a
Right. I feel like a lot of people throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to carbs.
yeah.
Okay. And do Americans tend to overeat carbohydrates? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but we tend to overeat them in a very processed
Right. And so
way.
that's what I was getting
Because when
to.
you start tracking, what I noticed is that, I mean, in my family, we don't really eat a lot of processed foods. Sure, we have snacks and goldfish. Well,
Right.
actually, no, it's like what a Cheez-Its or I knew they were yellow. Like most families, we have stuff in our pantry because I have like 3 growing kids and teenagers and their friends come over. And like my daughter always says, like, yeah, she's like, there's nothing to eat. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, what she's really saying is like, everything has to be cooked. Right. So that's what my kids complain about often. And I'm like, just eat a yogurt or eat this, or eat a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
But so even then before, I feared eating fruit or a smoothie. Why? Because it's like in my mind, what you see on social and such, it's like it's a sugar bomb. Well, sure, it has sugar, but I don't need to eat like 4 servings of fruit in a smoothie. I can just have like a cup of blueberries. And not only is that not a lot of calories, but the micronutrition in that is huge. Fiber, like all the things that my body needs. Yeah, the fiber's great.
And look, and it's important what she just said. Okay, Laura just said that I don't have to put 4 servings into a smoothie. I can just eat
1 cup of one serving.
One serving, right? Because what I was going to say is like Americans overeat carbohydrates because they're eating highly palatable carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. Highly palatable carbohydrates are when you combine carbohydrates and fat. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's chips, Cheez-Its.
That's a nice example,
right? Like anything that comes in a bag at the grocery store, or a box, or stuff like that. And that's when we combine the fat, we combine the carbohydrates. Look, it tastes delicious. It's awesome. Okay,
right.
But that is when our calories shoot through the roof. And what's interesting is people tend to demonize the carbohydrate side of it rather than saying like, hey, the fat plus the carbohydrates has a reaction in your system that makes you want to eat more.
Right. And unless you're really burning through it, like it can become a problem, right? Like, so one of the things,
and it's hard to burn through it.
It's hard, right? So
especially the older
most people, like I didn't know, but okay. So the beginning of the journey, I was under eating, right? I was working out like many moms that I know a couple of times a week at the gym. Right. So, but I do have an office job. So even if I get home at 6 and I'm cleaning and I'm cooking, like the second I get home, I don't stop until I'm like finally horizontal. Okay. So that's where I get a lot of my moving steps, like you were saying, like normal things. But during the day, like many of us, I'm quite inactive, right? At my desk or in Zoom meetings and whatever. So there's that level of like early morning activity, then I'm kind of inactive. And then there's the highly active and on my feed, go at night. So in between, I wasn't eating because I just simply wasn't as hungry.
Right.
But once I started training and revving up, I found myself that I was like, I had to, in order to not severely undereat, because to train for this specifically, to give my body enough, I had to make time to eat.
Yes.
Right.
Become a job.
And it was a job, right? Because so one of the key success points of being able to, I say, plan or to do this is to plan your food, right? So even if it's just 10 minutes on the weekend, and this is literally what I do for a living, help families plan their meals. But on the weekend, make sure you have all the food that you need for the week. So, and maybe a couple substitutes or plan Bs in mind. So you don't have to run out or you don't have to make shitty choices. I say shitty choices, they're just not as good as, but I call them shitty because they make you feel shitty.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily ordering, like I also eat out once a week with my family, or maybe whether I order out or whatever it is, but I don't feel bad about it.
Right.
So when I say a shitty choice to the moms I would speak with is the choices that make you feel less than. So makes you feel like a bad parent for not having a meal on the table. Makes you feel bad because you wanted to feed your kids something else, right?
Yeah.
That is not a good choice.
I love what you said about planning is having enough food in your house and having some backup options.
Yes,
because I
freezer,
think when people think about preparation or food preparation, they picture meal prep day and it's a Sunday with all these containers laid out and you have to fill all the cases, which if you do that, that's fine. That's great. Sure. Like all the power to you. I think that's hard for a lot of us. It's hard for me. I don't operate like that way. I don't think you operate like that.
No, not anymore. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if my husband's home and he's watching football, then it's 3 hours, like I can prep in the kitchen and watch and be around my family because we have kind of like an open thing. So I can do that.
Yeah.
But like most families, we have plans and stuff to do in the weekend. So prepping the whole week is just not doable for most of us. What I say to prep on the weekend is have the food there. And I don't care if you get it delivered or if you order it or you pick it up, just have food at home. And then I have now gotten to a point where I just have a post-it in the fridge and I go Monday this, Wednesday,
Right.
whatever.
That's what I was going to say. It's like you actually, it's almost like you journal out the plan.
Right. So it's almost like if you want to be financially savvy, meaning if you don't want to spend more money than you make at the end of the month, you're going to pre-allocate your mortgage, expenses, whatever. And then with the rest, you live your life. So I view food the same. I'm going to purchase the food that I need for the week, and I'm going to allocate that food to meals. And then I communicate with my family. It's like a lot of things parents say is like, yeah, but I have teenagers, so I'll buy this and then they'll eat it and it's gone. And so I tell them like that is about establishing boundaries in the sense of, hey guys, this is the plan for the week.
Teenagers eating bags of croutons.
Well,
that was for my salad.
Well, I mean, that's a little different. But I do get parents are like, yeah, like all whatever it is gone. And I'm like, well, did you communicate that this is the plan for the week? Or like I give my kids options, right? Here's the 5 snacks this week and whatnot, right? So they know to go there first. And if that's gone, then there's plan B, right?
What's plan B?
Usually something in the freezer. Like we have like all sorts of stuff in the freezer, and they don't usually like plan B because it's not it's not
as fun.
It's not as fun, or but I want something that I do is I cook a bunch of rice on the weekend because rice lasts. So and I don't have to wait for it. So I take out the proteins from the freezer if they're not fresh, and they're in a dish in the refrigerator, and they're slowly thawing.
Right.
So I know and everything is like semi-organized, I would say, because a lot of times it's all pushed in, but it's essentially it's put it there in the order that we're going to consume it. So in
the front,
I have like the pork it's pork loin tonight, and then there's a chicken behind it for tomorrow, and that's slowly thawing. So there is like an order, to that. It's just like, you do warm up, then you do lower, so food is the same.
Yeah. So, I think the last thing you want to do is like go into your fridge and find something you bought 4 weeks ago that's bad.
Yeah, that would be
unopened.
Yeah, right. That would be not good. But at that point, like I look at the stuff towards the end of the week. If there's something that we haven't consumed, I look at the date and I'm like, we all have really good intentions when we go to the grocery store. So I get you, because on Wednesday, I'm like, oh, I bought this Sunday. And now it's like, so if I'm not going to make it or consume it, it goes in the freezer before I have to throw it out.
Yeah.
So it's really about doing an assessment. And I really got good at that, especially during marathon training, because I had to constantly look at what I was eating, because for me, it was really hard to find an extra 1,000 calories in real food and so I ate a lot of oats, and I was like, man, half a cup of oats is only 150 calories. I can't believe it.
It blows my mind because I eat a lot of calories. I don't eat as many calories as some people, but I eat a lot of calories, and people are like, oh, I don't know how I eat another 50 carbs. And I'm like a banana is like 27.
I'm like, I've already eaten a banana today. I've already eaten an apple today, but sure, I could grab my kids like a Z bar. Like I could grab a granola bar, but I'm like, what's that going to do for me?
It's not going to make you less hungry.
Right. So literally I have eaten so many pounds and pounds of oats. And as a matter of fact, in Berlin, I did get an Airbnb just so I would have access to a tiniest kitchen or whatnot. And the 4 days to carb load, and this is really a joke with my team as well, because my carb loading for 4 days before the marathon was I ate 3 cups of oats a day.
Oh, wow.
Uncooked. So I ate a lot of freaking oats, but I know that it works. So we all have foods. It's just like for our family's meals. We all have foods that we know we tolerate. A lot of people deal with allergies, and it just makes it more complicated. But it's like at the end of the day, having a plan of what you're going to eat, that whether you're gluten-free, dairy-free, whatever, we all know. And so have that list of ingredients or things ready, and then you pull from those to mix and match and make meals, or in my case, to fuel throughout the day. So I ate a lot. Like a snack for me was half a cup of oats, not exciting at all.
What do you do to create variety then if you're eating 3 cups of oats a day?
So
do you change up the toppings?
Yeah. So blueberries, sometimes I cut back on the peanut butter. That was very sad for me. Because
do you miss it?
I mean, kind of. I haven't tracked anything for the last week, and I've been having a really good time with a spoon. I mean, I can't help it. But so every night, I have a yogurt and a tiniest bit of peanut butter on top. And the PB2 is powder. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
But
it's good for flavoring. Like it makes something taste
similar
to peanut butter.
But, you know, so another thing was very important. A lot of like I was under eating protein without knowing,
right?
You know, and I think especially important as a female, and if especially under 40, you know, you do. Oh, I mean, over 40, you do need more protein than people think they do.
Yeah.
So I just incorporated, you know, something that you said one time is that I have a lot of clients and they come to me and they're like, I just don't know what to eat. Right. So I had, you know, it's like the plan B situation.
Right.
I had this list of things in my mind that I'm like, okay, if I need this much protein, if I need X amount of carbs, these are my go-tos that are really quick. Right.
Right.
I also, for the most part, what I did is I added staple meals, right? So things I could prep. So I ate at lunch, I ate lentils because a cup has like 20 grams of protein, has a lot of fiber and carbs. So lentils, I was like, yeah, 1 cup, that I'm good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they were inexpensive, and I don't have to buy like a $3 scoop of protein, right? So in my mind, I was like 20 grams, all right. But so I made this list where I could just easily not go through decision fatigue, right? And I think that's something that is super common if you're trying to make good changes in your life. There's so many options out there, right? Everybody's telling us what to, you know, so many recipes on the internet, so many influencers telling us do this, do that,
right?
That it generates a decision fatigue of making choices all day long, which is I go back to plan for your success for the week, plan your meals, right? And then every night, you know, like I told my husband this morning, hey, take out the pork loin if it's still frozen, but it's not, you know, I will text him from the office what the air fryer directions are, right? Like
he doesn't know the air fryer direction.
And now he does, but like for different foods, I'll be like, hey, the pork, it'll be, you know, it's 30, you know, 20 minutes, this and that, right? He's not the cook, but he will execute. And so a lot of people have a partner who waits for them to make meals, right? He doesn't wait for me to make meals, right? But he knows what the plan is. But a lot of people do have that, well, unless I get there, you know, they're eating whatever, or they already feed the kids. And so having a plan for your family is really important so that you're all eating foods that support your personal goals, but as well as, you know, if they're working with you or they're going to the gym, they're working on bettering themselves. So I say that the principles that you want to follow for yourself are just as important to practice them with your family.
All right. It's interesting you say that because I, as a single dad of 2, it is difficult to make elaborate meals these days. Like I used to love to cook. Like I used to spend an hour and a half in the kitchen making this big elaborate meal. And now it's just me and the 2 little ones. I care less because they care less. And a lot of times it's just saving time. So what I do is I kind of make the protein that all 3 of us will eat.
Yep.
And then change out the sides.
Yep,
right.
Exactly. Same.
Because my kids have go-tos: carrots, celery, strawberries, blueberries. Right. And then I have, you know, I'll eat whatever my side is going to be.
We do exactly the same thing. Your main protein is the same for everyone.
Yeah.
And maybe like one other thing, but I just told you, in the refrigerator, I always have rice.
Right.
And so I have one kid who he has texture issues. He doesn't like anything potatoes because they're soft, mushy, whatever. And I respect that.
What about air fryer potatoes?
They're crispy like fries, of course. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
So, but I mean, so we're not having air fried French fries or whatever. You know, he doesn't do that. But through marathon training, I ate baked potatoes. And 4 out of the 5 love them, right? So for him, I'm like, there's rice, right? So again, it's about following a plan and doing the next best option of the path of least resistance that still meets everybody's goals, right? He's a growing teen. So what am I going to say? Well, then just eat the chicken? No, he needs carbs too.
Yeah.
Right.
Laura, on your website, you provide people with plans, right?
Yeah, we have plans. We have I have a 30-day program. If you just like, oh my gosh, everything's overwhelming, whatever, it's about eating real food with your family.
Yeah.
You know, and we all think we eat real food, but until you just eliminate like the Pop-Tarts and the things in the morning, and I help you swap that with 5-minute things, or the night before, do this, right? So for 30 days, it's about establishing the habit of whether it's making your food or eating meals with your family, more meals with your family, and packing things the night before, right? Because we all have I have learned by over a decade that the 10 minutes you take at night are going to save you so much time the next day.
I believe that.
And because the kitchen's already a disaster, right? So I already have to clean regardless.
Yeah, I like to clean my kitchen before I go to bed.
Yeah, same. So the 10 minutes at night help you execute breakfast and lunches. And that's like 2 times you don't have to clean up for the most part. So 30-day plans, cookbooks, tons of recipes, because people find me through wanting to make recipes. And it's not about like healthifying anything. I mean, I have recipes with cream, with this, with that, salads. Right. It's about like making the food at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that come from your like growing up in Spain?
Yeah, a lot. Because even to date, like if you not eating home cooked meals is seen as not doing a good job in a way. Like it's very cultural, but there's such a thing as providing for your family through food.
Right.
So, but I'm busy and I live in America, and there's different ways of doing things. So I have found how to do that in my daily.
Mesh the two together.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So how do you balance, and I want everyone to really listen to this part. How do you balance the eating, the training, okay, being a mom, and then running a mega successful company?
I say no to a lot of things. So I'm not hanging out with my friends, after work or happy houring or, I say no to a lot because I say yes to the very important things. So everything gets scheduled on a calendar. So we have shared family calendars that everybody has access to. Boundaries and managing my time is how you and then I also don't do everything, right? I delegate a lot. I say no, or I just don't do it. Right. So I may not know what show is up and coming and trending on Netflix right now because I don't have that hour at night. Right. Or, so that's really how any of us can do any of these things. I put my workouts, they go on a calendar. So my workout goes on the calendar. There's time allocated for that. You know what I mean? So I already know that's less time that I have in the morning. So that it all goes on a calendar. So then I can make decisions based on my availability and what I can reasonably get done.
How do you wind down at night if you're not Netflixing?
Audiobooks, baths. I take 20-minute baths. Mostly I take a bath because it's good for my muscles.
Yeah.
And
helps relax you.
Helps me relax. Exactly. And then, I have a lot of, this, I have trouble sleeping. So that's another thing, because I also have to account for sleep. For marathon training, I have to sleep. So at first I used to really stress out because I wasn't getting enough sleep.
Right.
So instead of trying to aim for 8 hours, I was like, I'm just going to try to improve by 10 minutes.
Yeah. How is it? And I mean this in all sincerity. I don't want this to come off wrong, but like, how is it being the power broker in your family?
It's really stressful. There's a lot of pressure as the person that provides for my family and for my employees and their families. So you
still have to be a mom.
And I still have to be a mom, right? I still have to make time for my teenagers, meltdowns, breakdowns. I need this, or pickups. And
yeah, because you can't replace mom.
You can't replace mom. But I have learned that a lot of things can wait at work. And most of the time, is it an immediate need, or unless the fire department needs to come out when it comes to a work situation, it can wait.
Right.
And honestly, I've really improved the last 4 months because of marathon training, because I now had to find like 15 hours a week.
Right. Extra
of the same time that we all have. And not because I'm running for 15 hours, but it takes, I counted, and it's like some weeks was almost 20. Why? Because you warm up, Okay, and then there's a long run, but then it takes time to shower
Mm-hmm.
and wind down, right? And then there's time, and then making food takes time. So all of that has to be accounted for. And in order to do that, I just said no.
Yeah.
No drinking, because like then I would feel like shit the next day. Not that a lot of drinks for one tequila, but like,
Yeah.
you just learn to go, I don't need that right now. Or junk food. A lot of people think that, oh, you're running a marathon, you can eat anything.
No, not if you want to stay lean and do it.
Well, not even that. It's like if I went out to eat and ate greasy food or whatever it is,
you wouldn't feel good.
I feel awful the next day, right? So, and there's for sure a run, there's a run around the corner when you're training for a marathon. So there's no way. Maybe it's not the next day, but it's the day after. So there's a lot of myths and misconceptions of people that are highly active. And now that I'm not training for a marathon, I'm like, I actually don't have all this time. I thought I would have all this time,
but you don't. Yeah.
But I don't, because now I'm filling it with all the things I've been like in the queue to get done for work. And I'm also like not as hungry, which is the normal, right? So I'm like, I'm not as hungry, but I'm used to eating 2,500 calories. So I'm like, whoa, I just want to chew something, so you train just like you train physically. In the reverse, if you're dieting, right? You've overeaten for a long time, you've trained your mouth to chew or eat. And now I'm like, whoa, he's back.
It's so interesting you said that, because I went on I was 167 pounds a year ago, and I purposely tried to put on weight. So I went through this gain phase, and part of that gain phase was I kind of like removed the food scale from my life for a little bit, because I knew I could eat and look, I have these parameters set where I eat certain types of proteins. I limit my fat no matter what. I know if my calories are creeping up, but I kind of took the governor off of my eating and purposely inched my way up as I was in this muscle gain phase for a year, and I put on 17 pounds. And I've been trying to lose. My girlfriend jokes all the time about my 3 pounds that I'm constantly trying to lose. I'm the only one who stresses over 3 to 4 pounds. Okay, as a man, I guess. All right. And so I was actually talking to my nutrition coach this morning, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do a bulk up for the wintertime and then, get in bodybuilding mode and then take it off in the spring?" And I said, no, because I know for me, when this has been so hard that if I try to eat more, and then I want to take off 15 pounds in the spring or 10 pounds in the spring, that is something I don't want to do, because I have raised my food level to so much now to where I was eating all day.
Right.
And now if you want to lose weight, you can't eat all day, but you're programmed to eat all day.
Yeah,
it's extremely difficult.
That's hard. Yeah, that's hard.
So I was like, no, that's not for me. I'll just deal with this.
But again, different needs, different times, different goals, and I mean, even with working with you, I learned how to ramp up as I was ramping up my mileage, what to look for, how to ramp up my caloric intake. And now I'm on the way, on the way down and recovering. And now I'm not running because I also have a foot fracture, but not from the marathon, from a pair of heels. And that's a different story. So, yeah. So but I will say that instead, so I may not be running, but instead I'm working out, lifting weights 3 and 4 times a week. And I just don't get the oomph that I did, nor am I as hungry. Even though last night I was
also because your scoliosis probably keeps you from lifting as heavy as you would need to get the oomph.
100%. But even yesterday's leg workout, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to sit tomorrow. Or abs, I was like, oh, I won't be able to sneeze. But I'm not as hungry, so I have to adjust for that.
Right.
And for me, I'm like, oh, and if I don't know, I think if you're listening, this could sum up our conversation in a way, is that if you are trying to achieve anything, or if you have a goal, it could be a marathon, or it could just be lose the 3 pounds or 10, whatever, the 15. If you don't know what you don't know, for me, it was very helpful, even though I have a lot of nutrition knowledge and a lot of food knowledge, was to seek out someone, just like you said, you spoke with your coach this morning, seek out the help of someone who can guide you there, because it's one less decision. For me to have that plan, that roadmap that you gave me, I then could create with the food that I do for, like, because everybody thinks like, oh, you cook for a living or this and that. It's really easy. But what I did is I took your macro suggestion or what my body needed at each stage of training. And then with my creativity, I filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't have known, I know that I would have under fueled my training for a marathon. Because to me, like if you told me at the very beginning to eat like 2,800 calories, I'd be like, that's crazy.
Right.
I'm like, my husband would be like, you just ran 20 miles. Yes. On certain days you have to eat more.
Right.
And other days you eat less. Right. But I wouldn't have,
for your goals.
For my goals. I would have had no idea. Right. So for me, that was like the most beneficial thing, because then I could focus on being mom, on working, on having a family, like on doing the things that were already there before.
And you're not stressing.
And I'm not stressing.
You're not stressing.
Right? I'm not stressing if I eat a banana or not or whatever, because I'm like, oh, this is the plan, or tomorrow I do this.
Yeah, awesome. Laura, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on MOMables.com or at MOMables. Google Laura Fuentes. There's also another website there.
Okay. Do you have there's a MOMables Instagram, right?
That's it, MOMables Instagram.
Yeah, perfect. All right, y'all. If you have any questions about meal planning, getting your family together, go see Laura at MOMables. If you need nutrition and fitness advice, coaching, come see us at Stack. Everybody, let's get stacked.